Namaste, Ansuji. So I have been sort of following you on Twitter and sort of the kind of discussion and also the kind of engagement you having on different issues. So we thought of sort of having a discussion with you on the topic you really like to talk about. Also, we came across your organization. So from after a long career in corporate, you decided to sort of like start this organization. So what was the inspiration behind? Like just completely taking a U-turn and starting afresh. So
Well,
what inspired you?
great. Thank you, Namaskar, Anuragji, and thank you very much. I think this conversation is something that most of us look forward to, because that's when you sometimes it brings in self clarity as well.
Yes.
So this question is something which I would say not has been asked for the first time, but every time it's very challenging for me to give the answer because I don't know where to start from. So I'll have to give you a bit of a background on that. Is as you already mentioned. So my initial working, or I would say the Purushartha time for Jivika earning, has been in IT, financial services. I'm a financial services payment consultant. So and the kind of profile I had, I used to travel across various countries and all. So it was actually in the time when I was posted in Netherlands, and I, we have abundant sunlight here in India.
Yeah.
So we are not used to sun not being there.
Hmm.
And Netherlands is where you hardly see the sun. So very quickly, I developed what you call a vitamin D deficiency, a tennis elbow. So I'd never played tennis, but did develop a tennis elbow, however. So actually, one of my colleagues, an Indian colleague's wife, she was very kind. She used to invite me over the weekends so that I can have chapatis. Otherwise, because my hand was completely useless. So one such, Sunday only, yes, actually was talking to a colleague in US, and his wife had a second delivery and she could not travel to India in time. And we were just, kind of discussing about the facts. There's so many things that we are missing being away from India. And I do not like being outside India, in the sense I don't take up long-term projects and all. But this time it was, really a call, and I was placed long-term there. So I was desperately missing. And we just realized that, what we were talking about, that what are the things to be done, let's say when a small baby is born, or for example, how do I treat myself? We did not know that. So the idea, and I come from a family, actually, surprisingly, I come from a family of Sanskrit scholars, but my Sanskrit knowledge is really not that great as of, I mean, it's improving now after coming in contact with the Gurukul. So the idea was that void which has come in our generation, where what have been our traditional knowledges, what have been our sciences, we do not know. And unless our elders are around, we are really hopeless. We really do not know. So the idea of this continuity, which our generation is responsible for breaking, because we have really dispersed all across the globe, all across, away from our birthplaces and everything. So what is it that we can do? And it is not about giving back to the society. It is a very, very selfish cause, I would say, that we don't know any of it. So we got so much from our parents. Our parents got so much from our grandparents. Like both my Nanaji and my Dadaji were Shastris and Rajgurus and all. So I said, there is no legacy that I would be able to pass on to the next generation. What is it that I'm passing on, which has been coming in for so long? So that was basically, in that moment, in that small train journey of about 1.5 hours, is where we decided that we have to route back to India and then actually start working on something. And, in the bigger discussion, it came out that we should start with children, because we have been spoiled. Our generation has completely gone off, but let's start with the newer generation. So we will do something in our traditional education area. So the idea is that I was supposed to come back earlier, and then my colleague would follow after his child has grown up a bit, and he was in a longer project for 2 years and all. So but from there, actually, I went to London because the work demands were such. And by the time I came to India, this kind of in a way fizzled down. So only I was there, my colleague, because he had a lot of responsibilities. He had to back out from this. But I still had this, that this void was kind of very much there. So in fact, one of my bosses was also part of Brahmavachas as Prashant. He was actually also on a soul searching journey at that time. And he came across Sanskriti Arya Gurukulam. They were organizing a webinar, rather a residential seminar in Vrindavan, in ISKCON Vrindavan, for Acharya, especially on Gurukul Shiksha. And since it was in Hindi, he was a Keralite. So he said, I cannot understand. Why don't you go and attend it? And that was the very first time when I came in contact with Sanskriti Arya Gurukulam. And I would say from then till now, there is no looking back. And, after attending a couple of shivers with them, one is the idea, as I completely understood what Gurukul Shiksha is, the complete pedagogy, its methodology. And I could figure out, okay, fine, this is where I will find all the details from. So it has been a Asim Anukampa of Ishvara that I kind of got in touch with them. So that's how it was, whatever I have dreamt of is something which kind of found a direction. And then, connecting with Guruji, and then, kind of things kind of just kept on getting together. And a very special experience also, which probably if time permit, we will talk about that, is something which kind of literally made this Brahma Varchas education. So we created a education trust. And the idea was, since we wanted to do something for the children, I wanted to start on a preschool, which is based on Vedic subjects and Vedic mythology. And for that, when I spoke to Mehul Bhai Acharya ji, he said, it is very difficult to probably say sit for 1 week and do that because he's a very busy person. He said, why don't you come down to Gurukul, stay for 2-3 months, and we'll complete this. So I went there for 3 months and I ended up being there for 3 years.
Wow.
So the idea was, that is the realization came in, it does not have boundaries. It is so vast. You can't just, cater to one of it and not look at the other. And unless you know the entire foundation, the interdisciplinary aspect of our education, our shiksha, our knowledge, there is no way that you can, only pick up a piece and then start something. So, and it actually saw a 360-degree evolution, I would say. The idea was only to start a small school, which probably would have catered to 100, 200, let's say 500 children in wherever I would be. And now it is kind of, it is an organization which is catering to the global audience. And the Valshala, of course, will also be there. And then there is a cultural center which is going to come up. So it has really kind of expanded from, I would say, from 0 to 100 in the last 5 years. And it's a fabulous opportunity, I would say. And that is actually also brought in the mission that again actually became the mission, the realization that only serving a small group is not the need of the hour. We have to reach as many people as possible. So this intention of going the e-learning way, or starting with the knowledge portal, using my 20 years of knowledge that I have from IT, with the help of technology, is actually take it to this level. It's something which has not been presented before. So that is pretty much how it materialized. Very dramatic, I would say. Some people call it very extraordinary as well, but I don't know. I think it just kept on happening, and it just I would say surrender to what the gurus were asking for and continue.
And also, this is very interesting. For example, if you read books and articles by S.N. Bal Gangadhara, he also talks about that how, especially because we don't have access to Sanskrit now, like many of us cannot read and write and understand text in Sanskrit. So we lost access to our own knowledge. So it's not that we just lost access to our own knowledge, we lost access to the way of living. Everything,
exactly.
from Ayurveda to education to everything. Also, the colonial education, which was brought to India by the Britishers, it completely kind of disrooted us. Like we have been uprooted from what we were before colonial times, right? And also, like so many scholars, post-colonial historians, they have talked about that how there is a trauma or in inside all of us. Like all of us are very traumatic. That's why we see all that crime happening around us, because the education is not very productive. It always it goes down to create divide in the society, divide within the within the body, soul, and the mind of an individual. So my question to you would be, so how are you thinking to bridge this gap between the ancient knowledge and this modern scientific understanding? For example, you also need education for certain modern practices, like maybe for jobs. Like people would like to do education because they want to get certain jobs, but at the same time being rooted to who we were before colonial times.
Right.
Yeah,
Very
and
true.
also
And
if
I
you
think
can
this
also
is,
yeah, and also if you
yes,
can also
please.
talk about this very interesting name, like how did you come up with this name? Very interesting, Brahmavarchas.
Great. I think I would, you kind of really have picked up on the question, which is very close to my heart, which is these are two different words.
Yeah.
They have become two different words, what we call the modern education and what we call the Gurukula system, as it is called. But it's actually the entire Bharatiya Shiksha, and Bharatiya Shiksha, because what we understand of Shiksha, that is the very first word, which we understand in a very limited, in a very limited fashion. So Shiksha, or even if you talk of the word education, that word means to draw out. Education, if you look at the dictionary meaning, the old dictionary conventional meaning is to draw out. Versus what we call education is certification programs.
Yes.
Right? You read through something, keep it in your short-term memory. You don't really grasp it completely. And then you go and qualify a level and then you move. So essentially, literacy has been misunderstood as education. That is so. So that is the biggest gap that I would see, and say, including my own self. For example, even till about our 25 or 26, in spite of coming from a family of knowledgeable people, I also used to misunderstand 33 Koti Devi Devatas as 33 million Devi Devatas, like 33 crore. Yeah. Instead of that, they are the Koti also means category, in spite of studying Sanskrit till class 10. Because the idea is that you teach the subject or the content inside it, but what concept does it relate to? Something which doesn't come into picture. So this gap essentially means that the fundamentals have been misplaced.
Yes.
I mean, the anchor has changed actually. So the intention is not on knowing, but the intention is on demonstrating that I know.
Yes.
So that is why the idea is that what is the first thing which needs to be done? As you know, we also, it's a simile which is used in Adhyatma, it is used in Garbha Vigyan, that, for any crop or for any fruit, if you want to have a fruit, then, the job actually starts from preparing the kshetra. So you have the kshetra, you have the bhumi, you have the bija, and then you have the vriksha. And with bija, after that is actually arbut. So even in Garbhigyan also, these four are the ingredients. So the idea is that how we are planning to bridge the gap, or how we intend to bridge the gap, is by preparing the kshetra. So when we say by preparing the kshetra, what do we mean? Is that these terms and all these concepts should be widespread knowledge. So what is Satyarajatam? You ask them, oh yeah, there are three, we know that. There are three gunas. We know also three doshas, they are kaphat. What is it? They cannot tell you. And if you're talking about this modern scientific understanding or the modern educational understanding, kapha is translated to phlegm and pitta is translated to bile. Phlegm essentially means the mucus which comes out of the nose, but it says kapha is something which binds your entire body. And, bile is something which is actually part of a digestive acid which takes it to rest of the body. And pitta is not bile. But in spite of having a complete, developed stream, we say that, let's have a equivalent of MBBS in Ayurveda. So we created BAMS. And in fact, the family which has been responsible, which worked very hard to bringing that Ayurveda into mainstream, is also a Pune-based family. They are the Ayurveda family for 5 generations. They worked so hard, but because of the methodology of this system, they got these meanings. Everyone understands it, everyone knows it, but no one has actually gone ahead and changed it. Why? Because that's what people don't want to know. There is no relevance. There is no need to know what is pitta and what is kapha. After Corona, I think it was, from that perspective, it was a blessing in disguise. At least these words started getting popular. So that is the whole idea. Is the first thing is to bring this, we make these fundamentals very, very popular. And how do we do that? For that, we are lucky, I would say, because Brahmavarchas, and I will come to the name part of it itself, is a very interesting story, is that Pandit Vishwanath Datar Guruji, who's the founder of Sanskriti Arya Gurukulam. He was, I would say, peer to Madan Mohan Malviya, and there is no end to when I start talking about his glory. And Mehulbhai Acharya, of course, is the current Pradhan Acharya, who has taken the legacy from Bade Guruji. So he has given, in a very small sutra, the construct of the Bharatiya civilization. It is based on the 3 stambhas of Shiksha, Swasthya, and Kutumba. And that Shiksha, Swasthya, Kutumba. So these exactly is what we want to build on. So what Shiksha means, what is the terminology, what is the idea, what does the word Rishi mean, what does the Acharya is. What Acharya is not someone who was an MA in Sanskrit, who is a Shastri. you know,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
so, and
Yes.
for example, when we talk of Panch Mahabhuta, these are not just the five elements. So this is what we want to first do that. And these are why these are called the civilization stambhas, is because everyone relates to that first. Whatever is benefiting me is something
Mm,
I'll be most interested in.
mm,
And that actually starts from health.
mm.
Second, it starts from family when you start having children. So your first focus, everything that you want to do is for the families, for the children.
Mm.
And then, of course, education. How do you do that? Your enabler is Shiksha.
Mm.
So anything that you would do in this, and you would specify and you would tell that you are working in this area, that is what will people, because they will benefit from it directly, very practically, they will attach to it. And through that is when you assimilate and you gradually move on to the, I would say, the more niche or the more complex, or the more disciplined areas like that.
Yeah.
So to make it, popular at a mass level. And if I talk in the modern terms, the way these children these days, people, I would say, youngsters say, make Ayurveda
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Mm.
so make IK cool. So
Mm.
that is the idea, and start from the beginning. And the people who have already studied, the adults, feed it to them also, because they are the ones who are actually going to teach the children.
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
not just enough that only you and me, or there's a handful of people who know this and who are trying to disseminate it. It is the parent who is actually passing on a lot of things to the child. He or
Yes.
she needs to be
Yeah.
equipped with that. So that equipment is what we want to do by bridging this gap. And I
Mm.
think on similar lines only is what, for me, I think I have a very simple principled solution, approach to looking for a solution. I turn to the masters.
Mm.
So Brahma Varcha, the very first time I spoke to my father's friend, uh, he's now retired as an HOD from Modernizing University for Vedic Sciences Department. He's one of the very renowned scholars in the world. I think only a few left on that subject. He has less Indian students and more international students who are doing their doctors under him on Vedic sciences. Itself
Wow.
is, I would say, a pity state to be in. So he's the one I first shared this idea with, that this is what I want to do. He really appreciated it. Otherwise, people were making fun of it. And I said that, could you, I'm looking for a name. What should I call it? He said, give me 2 days time. And 3 days later, he called me and said, call it Brahma Varchas.
Wow.
And I did not know the meaning of the word. I said, Uncle, what is Brahma Varchas? He said, that is the Parakashta of Jnana. That is Veda. Pinnacle of knowledge is called Brahma Varchas. So you call it Brahma Varchas, it will succeed. That is what we need now. Go ahead, you have my blessings. So without even asking for it, I got the blessing. I got such a unique name. And, sometimes people even find it difficult to pronounce, but this is, it's a very pure and pious name. Our Vedic Rashtrageet actually starts with the Brahma Varchas. So that is how kind of this name came into picture. And this idea of, I was not able to make too many people understand this idea that, fundamentals are so unimportant. According to them, this is so simple. People are expected to know it. I said, that is where the gap is. People do not know that. And that is what I want to fill in, because everyone wants to go for the higher ends, or, for the complex things. They want to change the country. They want to change the world. They want to draw the policies. But, they are not catering to the fundamentals. If that is the gap, your foundation is weak. How would you build a strong building? So that's how it kind of all started, and this beautiful name that I've got. And I think I'm very thankful to Pandit Hridayanath Sharma ji for this.
Such a beautiful name. Also, when you're talking about uh, uh, Swasth, Shiksha, and like Kutum, so this itself is so profound. For example, like uh, on contemporary world, we see so many crises happening in these three like domains of life, right? Shiksha, like there is a educational crisis. We have been reading reports how learning levels are going down year by year. Like we have some reports saying that kids enrolled in class 8, class 5th cannot read a simple text of class 2, right? And this is
Exactly.
going down every year, every single
Yes.
year. We have health crisis around us. So we have both communicable disease and lifestyle diseases. So for example, almost one fourth of now deaths are happening due to heart attacks. Every second third person now has sugar disease, right? And these were not there. Like if you go back maybe 20 30 years back, they were. So both communicable disease and lifestyle diseases are there. And also the crisis in the family. So all the media, education, judiciary, legal machineries, everything has been now put up against the family as an institution. So how to break away people, like the individual from the family, right? All the ideologies are playing out there. So I see, like, this is again a profound thought. Also, Indian education, especially ancient Indian education, it sort of brings everything together. So it brings, through Shiksha, it brings Swasthya and Kutumba together. So it's not separate, and we don't see it separately. But in case of
Yes.
Western education, it sees everything very separate. And that's why you will see it is very, very divisive. At the end, you will be sort of, you will be admired only when you rebel against your family. This
Yes.
rebellion streak is admired a lot. Similarly, for the, you're always acting against your body. So again, the focus is more on cure than prevention, like in Ayurveda. So
Very true.
so tell me more about, like, for example, the projects you are working on, both educational projects, like, and how are you integrating all of these ideas into your projects?
So this is, I would say, it was actually a very strange kind of a challenge for
Yeah,
us,
yeah,
because what Guruji has done, the good thing is that we don't really have to research new subjects.
yes,
This, it's a very fashionable thing which has come up these days. And I feel very sorry for that. That I do not concur with too many people on that subject.
yeah,
Is that it happens in the West because they don't have foundations.
yes,
They are very working very hard towards finding out the truths, toward validating them, proving them, and that is the reason all these modern scientific method, if you see modern science as they call it, it is about having an hypothesis. Something is true unless proven otherwise,
yeah,
and that's why the constant quest is to prove it wrong.
huh,
And
yes,
that has, and we say that, this is a field of science, it is not going to affect life. But
yeah,
see how it has affected what you call the woke people
yeah,
or the woke
part,
culture is
yeah,
essentially the same. They're saying
yeah,
everything which has been established is good for nothing. And
yeah,
what we have to do is, you have to create something new.
hmm,
Versus India, Bharat is very unique because the Rishi Pragya, as we call it, that has given us all the frameworks, the templates, the constructs, and that is why it becomes easy for us to not research, but only implement. So
hmm,
what Vishwanath Guruji did, that for these three stambhas, and he could, of course, he was a rishi of his time, and that is, just to give you a small example of how you can, if you have to, you can measure his rishihood, is that we have only three pictures of him during his lifetime. One is what he was taking the Rashtrapati Award, which was specially created for him. The other one was taking the Uprashtrapati Award. And the third one is which some follower Satsangi, by mistake, very, very secretly that he has taken, that you would mostly see around these days. Except for that, there was no recording allowed, there was no writing allowed. He said, if I have to establish and take forward the Shruta Parampara, that is what I'll do. So we don't have his recorded voice. It is not there. Mehulbhai Acharya, who studied in a paramparic way for 14 years with him,
yeah,
they were never allowed to sit with a notebook or a pencil. So everything is Shruta and everything is, Dharana. So what he has done, because he realized that, in the times to come, he was the one who has actually made this Bhavishyamani, this Vedic parenting, for example, is a construct that he designed in the form of 100 sutras and upsutras. And he did that in 1960s. He said, very soon the time is going to come where you're going to need it as a structured teaching.
hmm,
So let me write it down. He did not disclose it to the world at that time. He gave it to Acharya Mehulbhai Acharya ji. He said, when the time will come to take it out to the world, you take it.
hmm,
So in the same way, so Vedic parenting, for example, coming back to your question, that these three pillars, how to disseminate them into what you call prayogic knowledge,
yes,
practical knowledge, how to implement them. What are those tips and tricks and these are not really tricks. These are the fundamentals I'm supposed to actually incorporate in my life so that, I can bring up my family, I can cater to the family, I can be healthy, my family be healthy, and we look at holistic development. So for that, what he did was Panchakoshatma, because all of us really know and talk about that a lot. But the use of Panchakosha or the Panchakosha development, as we call it, how it is related to Shiksha and how the development of knowledge or development of a person happens chronologically, which kosha is predominant at what time, that is something only Vade Guruji has done, Vishwanath Guruji has done. And even the stalwarts of, Shiksha in modern days actually come and they take the teaching from that. For example, at what age does the kosha, Annamaya kosha actually is developing fastest or developing the most, which is actually from birth to 5 years of age. After that, it is the Monomai Kosha's time. And what is the time? And within that time, basically, what is it that needs to be done? So this is one example of family. Similarly, in education, when we talk of Gurukul, he knew that it is very difficult to, one, establish the ideal Gurukul in this time, in the modern times, especially when the population is really going to explode. So we have a humongous population currently. So you cannot have enough Gurukuls because you don't have enough acharyas. You don't have enough people who have this knowledge to disseminate. So what will you do? So that is why he created this, the program that currently Sanskriti Arya Gurukulam has residential children as well. He created this 7-year program, the Gurukul. And from that, what Mehul Bhai Acharya ji has done is this taking out small snippets. And that is what we are doing. That is what Brahma Bacha Shiksha is trying to doing, is to create what you call consumable capsules, give them a structure and take them forward. It is not a replacement for the Guru, that is for sure. But it's, again, as I said, is to build that kshetra. Granth, everyone wants to read, everyone wants to start from reading Vedas. No one wants to start from, you have to supposed to start from Itihasa, but no one knows the Krama. And there is no book which tells what is the Krama, what is the Vidhi to read the Krama. Quran is to be read separately, it has to be understood differently as compared to an Upanishad. An Upanishad has to be, understood differently as compared to a Samhita. It has to be, Aranyak is to be read or understood differently. So all these things is not written anywhere. These can only come from practitioners, and there's only a handful of practitioners, traditional practitioners left. So to convert them into smaller modules, into chunks, and offering them as e-learning courses is what we are doing. And it's not only the e-learning course part of it. For example, there are various formats. E-learning, as we, the popular meaning of it is that there are either pre-recorded sessions, or there is an instructor who's there with a lot of people joining in a workshop session, which is actually a Tadvit Samvash Paddhati, versus the way it is typically done in bigger corporates and internationals. Now, I come with a background of IT, worked in IT for 20 years. So the way courses or any learning or a new concept is disseminated to employees, that is a very different audio-visual technology which is used. So using that, bringing that, and actually creating courses on the Bharatiya subject on that is something we are doing. But at the same time, something which needs to be read, for example, Gurukul Shiksha. So there is a Sanskriti Arya Gurukulam has actually published a book on that as well. So also bring that book in form of an ebook. Also have an English version of the ebook. For example, Garva Vigyan is the, the book that we call it the Encyclopedia of Garva Vigyan, which Acharya ji has written based on whatever Guruji has talked about. That is available in the form of a paper book for quite some time. But that is something which is brought on an ebook now. And the English version will probably be out soon in this weekend. So it's ebooks plus audio visual content plus wherever it needs to be something which needs to be disseminated from the Guru himself, which is the third pillar, the Stambha. So Acharya ji is currently running like a 6-month program. It's Ayurveda classes that he takes every Saturday online. So that is something which is, again, because YouTube is another sea of information. So from there to pick up and for something to be available to someone, it's a very difficult task to identify. So picking that up, putting it in form of a structure, not doing too many things about it, and presenting it that, this is the structured way for you to approach. Because only an Acharya, only a learned person would know how to tweak it, what is the right way of actually teaching it. So that is where we do not, I would say, there's something that I also tell a lot of people. Sometimes I get into, I won't say arguments, but on a different platform with them, is that you cannot learn everything by being a self-reader. Swadhyay will not give you everything unless, the Guru tells you what is between the lines, you would not know. So present what the Acharyas have, the traditional Acharyas have to say, what they have to convey, just be the medium and bring it forward. So there are basically 3 big programs that we are running, I would say, currently, because they are a set of courses or they have on and offline presence or initiatives as well. So the first one is Vedic parenting. It is a huge program which is targeted to all the parents. Of course, our swartha is towards Indian parents. We want the Indian population, Bharatiya Rashtra to be better off. So that is actually a big program which is based on Panchakosha development, Panchakosha science development. So For example, and when I say that Guruji has put together these manuals, so for Vedic parenting, he has given 100 sutras and upasutras. So when a child is born, right from the time a child is born, and before the child is born, it is Garbha Vigyana, but from the time the child is born, for the first 5 years, it is the Annamaya Kosha which is developing the most. So what has to be the Ahar, what has to be the Vihar, what has to be the Vyavahar, what has to be the Sanskar, what has to be the Aushadhi. All these things put together, what needs to be done is something that he has written in form of a sutra. So that has been expanded and put in form of a course. Similarly, 6 to 10 years, it is the pranamaya kosh which develops the most. But the behavior of the parents has to change. The ahara of the child has to change. The vihara of the child has to change. Education starts. So what are the changes which need to be brought? What you're supposed to do? How are you supposed to take notes? All those things, that is something which is there. Then is the manomaya kosh. So what are the changes that the parents are supposed to bring into them so that the natural development of the child, which is a very scientific development of Panchakosha based science, that is something which has been provided. So that actually essentially caters to the family stambha of it. Similarly, on the well-being part of it, and that is a very important aspect. There, women, Stree is the center of a family. Parivar ki dhuri hai, parivar ka kendra Stree hoti hai. And her health, if you see, 80% of women are not healthy. They are not in a completely healthy state. Now, there might be a lot of data which goes contrary because the health is only measured at a physical level. But the Bharatiya concept of, health is supposed to be at 3 levels. It is actually the body, it is the mana, it is the vichar, and then it is the adhyatmik. So, prasanna atmane indriya manaha. So, that is the mantra for swastha. But what is the core of that? There's a fundamental of Rajaswala Paricharya. There is a discipline construct which was given by Ayurveda, which, as you were rightly saying in the beginning, which used to be followed till about 50 years back, 60 years back. But that is something which has got lost, and people don't realize that so many of health problems that women are facing these days is because of not following Rajaswala Paricharya. So that is another big program, and which is part of the Swastha Vritta construct, which is a phenomenal concept that Ayurveda has given to world. What is it? It's actually a set of instructions on or principles or guidelines on what you are supposed to do to be physically healthy at individual level and all 3 levels of health. At the same time, what the society needs to do or how the society's health will come into picture. In fact, recently we have, last week only, we have released the booklet, the e-learning for that as well. And since, we are a country of diverse languages, usually having it only in Hindi used to be a restriction. But that is why, being the bridge, connecting the modern with, with the ancient, is this bridge, we are ensuring that it is also out in English as well, so that it can reach more people, because there are a lot of people who genuinely cannot read Hindi or who genuinely do not understand Hindi because that's not their mother tongue, people outside of the country. So we definitely, health is something which does not concern only a country. We are a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam company. That's our motto. So that is why this health is something which is through the Swastha Vritta. Rajaswala Paricharya is a very big program. It's a year-long program that we run. We wanted it to be a small course, but an Acharya said, no, this has to be taken to the entire women populace. So this is something we are running as a yearly program. So it's not just a course. There is an e-learning course, but we run webinars every month on that. And at the same time, we also take it offline to schools and colleges and, associating with yoga instructors and all that, take it to your clients. Health is very important. So this is basically, it's not just something that you only sit on your computer and you learn, but you are actually supposed to do a very, very practical aspect of it. In the Shiksha aspect of it, as I said, starting from, you start by understanding what is a Gurukul, what is a Gurukul Shiksha. So start by some Swadhyaya. There are certain ebooks out, and gradually there'll be other snippets which will be out. For example, Vedic Shikshan Paddhati. There are 27 types of methods, which we call the Vedic methodologies. What is each one of them? Where, in fact, we are using most of the consulting firms. I worked with one of the world's biggest consulting companies. And I realized after getting into IKS, there's so many things that they teach, such expensive consulting trainings, which used to cost 2,500 pounds, $2,500 for 2 sessions, is something which is actually been taken up from our Upanishads. Yeah. So the idea is it is all in here, but we just have lost it.